Christopher Nolan's next film, The Odyssey, will be like nothing we've ever seen before. But why is that? In this video, we're not only going to talk about everything we know, but we're going to talk about everything that we don't know. And we are going to speculate. So I ask you this, what does a new Christopher Nolan movie even mean nowadays after Oppenheimer? A Christopher Nolan movie means different things to different people. It may mean the greatest superhero trilogy of all time. If you ask one group, ask another group and they'll tell you that Christopher Nolan movies are all mind benders, using intricate forms of narration to control the time and what the viewer sees. A Christopher Nolan movie is a tricky, ambiguous film, if you ask them, and they love those movies for it. Ask another group of people and they'll tell you that Christopher Nolan makes true-to-life, epic stories about our world. And what does it mean for The Odyssey? What kind of film are we going to get? Almost any other director, you'd know what you were going to get with The Odyssey. It was going to be a CGI-heavy, epic blockbuster. And while some of that might be true for this next film by Christopher Nolan, one has to wonder, why exactly did Christopher Nolan want to show us The Odyssey? Why does he feel like he has something new to add to the story? Because truthfully, after Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan is at the height of his powers and could make any film. Now is the time for him to make the most personal, the most Nolan movie he's ever made, and instead, he's making a literary classic. So one has to wonder, what exactly does Christopher Nolan feel like he's got to say? Because I think he's got something big to say with this. We've recently seen the newest rumor that Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is going to cost $250 million. The last time he made a film for $250 million, it was The Dark Knight Rises. And while reviews are hot and cold on that one, and I go back and forth myself, lately I like the film a lot. Lately I've fallen more in love with the film. No one can argue that it doesn't look incredible, and the money is well spent. So what does $250 million look like in Christopher Nolan's hands today? That's the real question I want to ask. What does a Christopher Nolan directed The Odyssey look like? I don't think any of us can deny that feeling we get the morning we wake up on a new Christopher Nolan film's release date. I know I get antsy the night before as if I were going to Disney World and I was 6. Nope, I'm just going to see the next Christopher Nolan movie. And depending on the film, you may or may not have some idea of what the movie's gonna look like. That's always my most exciting ponderance. I wanna know, what's this thing gonna look like? Are we gonna start off in the sea? Are we gonna wake with Homer alone? What is this thing gonna look and feel like? Is this gonna be a realistic take on a modern epic? Is it going to be Nolan at his most fantastical? A story like The Odyssey is unlike anything Christopher Nolan has ever done before. And while he's made epic films in the past, the nature of The Odyssey itself dictates that this will be Christopher Nolan's most ambitious film as well. Even if you don't know what the story of The Odyssey is, you may have an idea of what it's about, and if not, it's easily enough Googleable. So the question is not, what will Christopher Nolan's film The Odyssey be about? The question is, what will Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey be like? Christopher Nolan films tend to feel a certain way. Now, in a previous video, I made a video pondering just what type of film Christopher Nolan's next would be, and now we know it's going to be Homer's The Odyssey. It's going to be this epic, ancient Greek fantasy. And that says a lot, but it also doesn't, because we haven't seen Christopher Nolan make a fantasy film. We've seen him do some fantastical things. We've seen some magic, possibly in The Prestige. We've seen the Dark Knight trilogy, which definitely pushes the boundaries of our imaginations while staying within the limits of the real world. And I wonder, that could be an interesting take on The Odyssey. Will Christopher Nolan do a more quote-unquote realistic version of gods? What would that be like? I immediately think back on Darren Aronofsky's very controversial Noah, starring Russell Crowe and Jennifer Connelly. That film I actually really enjoyed, but was widely panned. I tend to have a strange taste in movies. I liked Noah, I liked Mother. I liked some of Aronofsky's weirder movies like The Fountain, and while I love movies like The Wrestler and Black Swan, they're great, I like his weirder stuff better. So anyway, I wonder, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, will this be more like Batman Begins or The Dark Knight? Will this be more like Oppenheimer or like Tenet? What are the characters going to sound like? Are they going to be speaking poetically? Are they going to be speaking more modern? Is this going to be a straight adaptation, or is there going to be a modern flair? Is this story going to be told linear or non-linearly, as Christopher Nolan is famous for? Are we going to use practical or CGI, or a mix of the two? How much of this movie is going to be shot in the IMAX 15:70 format? How long would The Odyssey be? Is this going to be a 3-hour epic? Is this going to be a 4.5-hour movie with an intermission? Might we have any unannounced characters in the film? For example, like Damon was in Interstellar. How much of this movie will be shot practically, and how much will be shot CGI? But the most important thing that we're going to talk about here, and the thing that I always think about when I watch a Christopher Nolan film, and the thing that I wonder about before I go into a Christopher Nolan film, is what will this look like? And what will this feel like? You know, even a movie like Oppenheimer feels like a non-stop roller coaster ride the way it's shot and edited. So my question is, how is this movie gonna look and feel? And I do wonder if it's gonna be told non-linearly. I know he uses that motif over and over again in his films, but truly there's nobody better. One of the most exciting things to me about Christopher Nolan's next film is gonna be what this is going to look like specifically. And look like because we're gonna be shooting on all new IMAX technology. And what does all that really boil down to? Well, there are some technical aspects that have been noted, that have been reported by IMAX proper, but here's the thing. It all comes down to this. The cameras are going to be lighter and they're going to be quieter. And what does that mean? That means that Christopher Nolan and cinematographer Hoytema will be able to do more with the cameras. They'll most probably be able to now use them in dialogue scenes, which up until now has been a huge hindrance on utilizing the film format. One of IMAX's biggest drawbacks, and you know this if you know anything about IMAX cameras, is they are extremely and famously or infamously loud. I think more than anything, the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is the film itself. And I don't mean the movie, I mean the film. Christopher Nolan tends to film everything nowadays on either IMAX 1570 or on 65mm, in both occasions utilizing as large a format as possible. The 65mm negative tend to be used with the Panavision camera so that Nolan could capture audio more appropriately and saving the big guns, and in this situation the big cameras, the big film stock, for the most important, visually stunning moments of the film. Shots, vistas, the bomb, a face. He chooses the moments, but there are some times where he feels it's not necessary. So the question is this: if now the technology is 30% quieter and lighter, can they put that camera? Yes, the answer is yes. They can put that camera in more places now. And so what is that going to mean for watching The Odyssey? Well, I think that means that we could have more large-scale dialogue scenes and maybe even mixing better dialogue into the action scenes. It's something that Nolan is famously, well, actually infamously known for. Christopher Nolan is infamous for poor dialogue in loud action movies. I for one, I've heard it, but the truth is I love it. I adore Nolan's mixes. I go to the IMAX. I want to sit in the right seat so that it's, you know, perfectly calibrated, all that nonsense. I like it. I enjoy it. But yes, sometimes it is a little difficult to hear that. But I think that if there's a dialogue scene or moment in one of the Nolan movies, he's going to make sure you hear it if he wants you to hear it. He's going to control your eyes and your ears. So anyway, I'm excited to see what this thing is going to look like. I cannot wait to see what Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is going to look like. I mean, it's going to be crazy. And you know, a movie like Tenet, you know what it's going to look like. You're not sure how the scenes were going to go backwards. I think that was the draw, the allure. But you know what it's going to look like. It's going to look like a Bond movie. In Inception, there was some. I remember thinking, I wonder what he's going to do with dreams. Is he going to make dreams? Like, I was wondering, is it going to look weird? But the truth is, his Inception was still a very clean version, and it didn't really explore the depths of true dreams. It was just basically using someone's mind, as the poster says, as the scene of a crime, right? It wasn't exactly dreams, it was using dreaming. So here, if we're gonna be doing a high fantasy film with gods and monsters, man, what is that gonna look like? I am excited. And I'm excited because I don't know what it's gonna look like. I know what a bad movie using gods and monsters looks like, but I don't know what a Christopher Nolan movie with gods and monsters looks like. And this is one of the main reasons why I cannot wait to see this movie. I'm just gonna think about it for the next year and a half, right? I think that's what I'll be doing. As they say on Twitter, and this is like a new phrase I've been hearing a lot, I am seated for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Are you? All right, so this is like deep dive confession stuff. Every once in a while, I'll see a Christopher Nolan movie the first time in theaters in 1570, and I'll be so overwhelmed that I'll walk out of the theater not sure what I think about the movie. And maybe you've been there before. In fact, I have a theory that this is one of the reasons why, and this might be the major reason why Tenet is so overlooked in Christopher Nolan's filmography. And obviously because Tenet came out during the pandemic, the people who did get to go see the movie, they might not have gotten it the first time or been underwhelmed or seen something that they weren't expecting, and they didn't really have the opportunity or really the desire to go see it a second or third time in theaters, where under normal circumstances, I was able to go see Oppenheimer 4 times in theaters. I'm sure a lot of people might have even seen it more times in theaters when it was playing because of how they felt about the movie, the passion of the cinema, and also wanting to get another set of eyes on the movie. One thing that Christopher Nolan does really well is end a movie. And there's nothing I love to do more when I end a Christopher Nolan movie than get excited about watching it again, because now that you know everything about, for example, Oppenheimer, you understand that he's not just the guy who invented the atom bomb. There's a lot more nuance to it. And now when you go back and rewatch Oppenheimer for the second, third, fourth time, you see all these little details. You see the communism subplot that I actually didn't even notice the communism plot until, a third into the movie the first time I was watching it, because I was just so enthralled and invested in all the sights and sounds. Honestly, Christopher Nolan 1570 IMAX presentation, the first time you see it, it truly is overwhelming, and to me it feels more like a download. The first time I see a Chris Nolan movie, it's like I'm downloading the information, but I haven't really watched it back yet. The second watch, the first rewatch, is usually like the first real watch. Take The Prestige, for example. The first time, I wish I could go back in time and rewatch The Prestige for the first time ever, because there's so many twists and turns, and the way the story is told, you're not sure who the main character is, who the protagonist is, the antagonist. Are they both protagonists? Are they both antagonists? And it's even more complicated than are they both, because there's so much more nuance to the film, The Prestige. But I'll tell you what, talking about The Prestige excites me again about watching Nolan's take on The Odyssey, and gets me excited about what is this movie gonna look like? What is this movie gonna feel like? Because The Prestige was based on a novel written by Christopher Priest. In fact, Interstellar, my all-time favorite Christopher Nolan movie, although widely rewritten by Nolan and major things had been changed, including originally Murph was a son and not a daughter, but more exciting than that is the realization that Interstellar wasn't originally a Christopher Nolan movie. Originally, Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother, was writing it and developing it for Steven Spielberg. And when Spielberg ultimately didn't complete the project, he moved on. Jonathan Nolan brought his brother into the picture, and Chris fell in love with the project, with, of course, the caveat that he would be able to make major changes to the screenplay, which he did. And again, a Jonathan Christopher Nolan collaboration really can elicit fantastic results. For example, The Dark Knight, for example, Interstellar, for example, Memento, and so on. They really do work well together when I think Chris is in the mood to work with his brother. And the past couple of movies, Jonathan hasn't been involved. Jonathan Nolan has not been involved in Tenet. He hasn't been involved in Oppenheimer, and it doesn't look like he's going to be involved with Nolan's take on The Odyssey. The thing that's inherently exciting about everything leading up to a new Christopher Nolan movie is the anticipation. We don't actually know what the movie's going to look like until we've seen it, and everything leading up to that screening, that day that you sit down and witness and truly feast your eyes on a brand new Christopher Nolan film. With the announcement of The Odyssey, a huge question mark gets introduced into the zeitgeist of Christopher Nolan films, as the story of The Odyssey allows Nolan to enter a new genre of film he has yet to direct in. Now, Nolan has dipped his toes in fantasy. The Dark Knight trilogy, Interstellar, The Prestige, Tenet, Inception, all these movies do have shades of fantasy, of science fiction. However, what Christopher Nolan does best is blending those shades of fantasy and science fiction into a reality that we recognize. It almost feels like Cobb in Inception could be a dream thief. It makes sense when John David Washington walks backwards after coming out of the turnstile. These things start to make sense to us within the rules of a Christopher Nolan universe, right? With Interstellar, we can all agree that we kind of believe that these things would be possible. In The Prestige, there's a part of me that wants to believe that Nikola Tesla could have created that box. That, these are exciting thoughts, and although yes, these are science fiction. These are fantastical ideas. Christopher Nolan is always able to frame it in a way that makes it feel real. So yeah, so here's a big question. Is The Odyssey gonna be framed as a realistic depiction? It can't, right? But it has to in a certain way. Is this gonna be a full-fledged Greek god fantasy epic? 100%? I mean, that in and of itself is exciting, but coming from Christopher Nolan, one has got to wonder, what is that going to look like? With Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan and Hoytema revolutionized the way IMAX cameras and large format film frames images and what they focus on. Instead of aiming IMAX cameras at sports cars and planes, he aimed them at the pores of Cillian Murphy's face. The portrait became a landscape. But with The Odyssey, Christopher Nolan is at a rare crossroads, mixing CGI and utilizing 70mm IMAX brand new photography capabilities to show us, reminder, this is for us to see, to show us something new, something that we've never seen before. And that's why I am so excited to watch Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. In fact, that's the reason why I'm reading The Odyssey right now. I mean, to be completely honest, I don't care if I'm labeled a film bro. I was not interested in reading The Odyssey. You couldn't have gotten me interested in reading The Odyssey up until a month ago when this announcement was made. And I don't mind saying that because I know I'm not alone. Now, I did read The Odyssey in high school or college, but I don't remember anything about it. And I probably breezed through the book. I don't think I was excited about it. I'm sure I was more kind of, weighed down by the idea that I had to read this epic poem. You couldn't get me to do that back in the day. I was a film student, I was a theater major, but there were certain things, I was doing Pulp Fiction monologues in acting class. I'm sure I was the kid that everybody hated, but that's what I was doing because, I loved movies and I just wanted to talk movies all day, every day. And of course, I like the kind of movies that I like. I like Tarantino, I like Villeneuve, I like Nolan, I like Kubrick. But guess what? We're getting a brand new Christopher Nolan movie, and we are getting a brand new genre of film from Christopher Nolan. In a previous video, I said that his next film was going to be divisive, and I do think I was right. While everyone is absolutely excited for The Odyssey, I do, like you, I wonder, are any of us not 100% through the moon? Are there any people who have questions? Are we going, oh, I was hoping for, another Inception or another Tenet? And for example, I know that I was looking forward to kind of a new original Christopher Nolan idea. I wanted to see not a Tenet 2 or not an Inception 2, but I wanted to see, his next in the line of mind-bending films. Those are my favorite type of Christopher Nolan films. I like The Prestige, Inception, Tenet. I really love the mind-benders. While Dunkirk, for example, is a beautiful film, and I do watch it just for reference quality, it's not my favorite. I love the end of Inception. I love watching Tenet and trying to find out the little details that I haven't seen yet. I love watching Interstellar. I'll just watch Interstellar over and over and over and over again. Now, Oppenheimer was a film that I really enjoy, but the truth is it's not my number one Christopher Nolan film. Although I do think that it's his best edited film. There's absolutely no question about that. I'm drinking some coffee right now, and let me just share something with you. I'm trying something different with this video. I'm gonna try to make it a little longer. I want to talk to you a little bit more personally. This whole YouTube thing has been interesting for me. This has been like a big experiment, and I've been wanting to talk about movies and TV for a really long time, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to share it with you. And I think some of that is just talking normally and being myself. And I'm gonna tell you something, I love coffee. I love coffee so much. I drink it a lot. I drink it all day. I have a nice coffee machine in my house. I'll tell you, this is not an ad because I'm not cool enough for ads, but I have a Chibo coffee machine. There's a silent T in the front because it's European. I don't know. My brother-in-law got it, and I had a cup of coffee at his house, and I was like floored. So it was on sale on I forget if it was like Amazon Day or Black Friday, but I got this thing. It was, I'm not gonna lie, it was $300 on sale from $400. I know I might lose you right now, and oh my god, this guy spent $300 on a coffee machine. I'm not rich. I shouldn't have bought it. It was it was a stupid buy, but it was a great buy because I don't know how many cups of coffee out of this thing every day for me and my wife and the family. People come over. It grinds the beans, and then so it makes a fresh cup every time, and it's so good. And I'm just gonna have a sip now, and then I'm gonna talk to you more about I made a video about this, and it's embarrassing because I had just made a video called Christopher Nolan's Next Film. Originally, it was called Christopher Nolan's Next Film is ... and then the hook was that I say divisive the first 5 seconds. That video did really well. It's got like 60-something thousand views right now. It's my only like really, really popular video next to my Megalopolis review. After I made that video, I made a video called, I forgot what the original title was because it's changed so many times, but it was about if Nolan's next movie would be entirely filmed in IMAX 1570. So that video did well, and some of you guys may have even seen that. It got about 7,500 views, and I deleted it by accident when I was uploading my Tenet video. Now, my Tenet video is one of my worst performing videos on the channel. It's only got a few hundred views, maybe 500 at this point. But I had really, in my mind, I had decided that this Tenet video was gonna blow me up, and I was gonna get monetized after the Tenet video, and everyone was gonna realize what an incredible artist and film lover I was. And so I got copyright after copyright after copyright claim on my Tenet video, and I started to panic, and I kept doing different versions of the uploads where I was changing frames and putting in pictures instead of video and removing certain parts, or I was cutting out the beginning or the second minute, and I was really panicking. And I was doing this on one of my days off from work, and on my days off from work, I'm also a stay-at-home dad. On my days off, right? On my days at work, I'm working, but on my days off, if it's a weekday, because my schedule, I work the kind of job that it's a 24-hour job, so my hours are great when I have them, but they're really long. And on my days off, I spend them with my 2 little kids, and my big one too, but she goes to school. So my babies and me are home, and I'm trying to upload this Tenet video. I keep getting copyright claims. I'm panicking, and I go to delete the most recent copyright claimed version of the Tenet video, and I accidentally delete my IMAX video with 7,500 views. I think it was 7,400 views. I keep saying 75. It sounds better, but it was gonna get 75. It was gonna get 10K. It was doing so good, and it was only a few days or a week or so. Anyway, I deleted that video by accident. It was completely heartbreaking. And if some of you don't know about uploading videos, you might be wondering, well, doesn't YouTube say, are you sure you want to delete this video? Yeah, it does. But the thing is, I had deleted my Tenet video 4 or 5 times already, and I was juggling everything with these 2 babies, and they're both under 2. And at the time, they were even younger. I just made a mistake. It asked me, are you sure you want to delete it? And I was like, yeah, I'm sure I want to delete it. I deleted it a million times already, but I deleted the wrong video, and I didn't look closely enough, and it was my fault. And this was a big hole for me and the channel, because I deleted those 7,400 views. And since then, I've been trying to kind of figure out, navigate how better to share my thoughts and opinions, because I spent weeks on the IMAX video, and I spent weeks on the Tenet video, and they don't always get traction. And so you have to balance, what do I want to say versus what's worth saying, because this takes me a little time. Lately, these have been easier videos, and they're easier to produce, but that's because I'm trying to balance doing this and being a dad and working, and I think it's working. I think we're getting there. Now listen, that was a big tangent. Maybe I should do more tangents. I don't know. Listen, if you like that, if you enjoyed that little bit of who I really am, like the video, comment. And I'm not saying that because I'm supposed to say that. I mean it. Like, let me know if you want to hear more from me. Obviously, we're here to talk about movies and stuff like that. But if you did like this part, let me know. And if you didn't, let me know also. Be like, hey, listen, no one cares about you know what I'm saying? Like, just let me know, because my whole goal here is I want to make something that you're gonna enjoy while you're walking around, while you're walking the dog, while you're doing the dishes, while you're taking out the trash, while you're at work. I just want to talk about movies, and if you want to hear them, let's do it. So that was a long-winded way of me getting into how excited I am truly for how much of this movie is going to be on IMAX. I mean, I can't even imagine how much is exactly going to be in this movie. I am still crossing my fingers for a Christopher Nolan film entirely IMAX. That's what I want. I want 4.5 hours of Homer's The Odyssey filmed on 1570 IMAX. The whole thing. That's what I want. I want that from first frame to last frame. I want an entirely IMAX Christopher Nolan film. That is what I think Christopher Nolan is slowly moving towards. There was 28 minutes of IMAX in The Dark Knight, which was the first time he used the format and the first time that the format was used for a theatrical release. And slowly he's been building. With Oppenheimer and Tenet, the last 2 Christopher Nolan films that released in theaters with 1570 IMAX. And again, importantly, shot on 1570 IMAX and presented, not just presented. A lot of these films lately, including Dune Part 2, which I saw on the 1570 IMAX format. And by the way, it did look incredible, it was still a blow up. It was shot, quote, for IMAX, but it wasn't shot on IMAX. And there is a difference. And that's not to talk down on Dune. I think what Greg Fraser and Denis Villeneuve did with digital on Dune Part 2 is bar none the best digital I've ever seen. And I know they, I believe, finished it on film, so they shot it on digital, and then they didn't digitally enhance the image with film grain. There was a process that they did that actually got the digital image onto film to give it that film look, and then they reprocessed it back to digital. It's complicated. I could look it up, but so could you, and you probably have already watched a video about it, because if you like Nolan, you probably love Dune Part 2. Although the two don't go hand in hand, I do think that Denis Villeneuve and Christopher Nolan are both pushing cinema forward, and if you're this deep into the video, you probably really like movies. So I have a feeling you like Dune Part 2, and maybe you geek out on film grain and digital versus film as well. If you do, and you haven't seen my entirely IMAX Chris Nolan video, I'll put a link up top right now. Check it out if you're interested. If not, all good. And you know what? There's probably a lot of info in there you already know, because I talk about like the beginnings of IMAX and stuff like that. And the whole idea behind the video was this. Is this movie, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, is this movie gonna be entirely IMAX? Because we saw the reports that the new IMAX cameras are gonna be 30% lighter and quieter. And that means, like I was saying before, that Nolan and Hoytema can put these cameras in places they haven't been able to before. And that's exciting, because that means we can see something new. And that's what I love about going to the movies. I want to see something new. And I do think, if anything, while not always successful, although in my opinion, always successful, Christopher Nolan is striving to show audiences something new and exciting, right? It's not just new. He could show us something new, but he also wants to excite and amaze us. I mean, think about what he did with Oppenheimer. I can't imagine another director that you could have told me was making a biopic on J. Robert Oppenheimer that would have excited me. If you told me Spielberg was doing it, I would, okay, you know, I might be interested, but not really. I'm gonna be honest, not really. But you tell me that Christopher Nolan is making a movie about the father of the atomic bomb, and yeah, I'm sold, because you know Nolan's gonna try to push things. What's exciting is every other director would have done a beautiful CGI representation of the Trinity test, whereas what Nolan wanted to do was see if he could film it. You know, that's exciting. In Tenet, he wanted to crash a plane. And if you rewatch the behind the scenes, it's not that exciting crashing a plane. It crashes into the building. It looks like most of the building was built to be crashed into, and you see some explosions going off on the side that don't really have anything to do with anything, but kind of make it look better. It's cool, but the truth of the matter is, Nolan just wanted to do it. I want to see what he wants to do on The Odyssey, because obviously he's got something in his head that's exciting to him, and he wants to show it to us. And that's one of the most exciting things about going to see a Christopher Nolan movie, is, you know, he's got something he wants to show you. He's like, you know, he gets excited about these things. Filming starts soon, and I can't wait to talk more about it. If you're excited about Christopher Nolan's next film, check out these videos. I'll link a playlist above. Now, I'm not going to talk about casting rumors. That's been reported on for weeks now. I'm here to talk about what it feels like to watch a Nolan movie. That's what I care about. That's what you care about. That's why we're here. That's why we love movies. And that's probably why you love Christopher Nolan movies, because they make you feel something. I watch Christopher Nolan movies because it's like putting my brain on a roller coaster ride. My eyes and ears, I'm soaking in everything. My brain is thinking. I'm trying to put it all together. And the truth is, there's nothing like watching Inception for the first time. There's nothing like watching Tenet for the first time. There's nothing like watching The Prestige for the first time. Watching The Prestige for the first time will mess you up. What a beautifully crafted film, I swear. The Prestige, you know, that's a good thing to think about, because The Prestige was a novel that was already written by Christopher Pearce, and Christopher Nolan took The Prestige and he remixed it, basically. He made it a Nolan film where he changed the structure of the narrative, and he obviously omitted certain things, and he did the same thing with American Prometheus and Oppenheimer. He kind of like Nolanified the movie. Again, he uses narrative structure and really is able to use and lean on non-linear story structures, and somehow it doesn't get played out. You know, Memento, Oppenheimer, The Prestige, Dunkirk, they all use non-linear structure. So could The Odyssey use non-linear structure as well? Everyone knows the story of The Odyssey, whether or not you know it, right? You can Google it. So the question is this: what is Nolan gonna do to make The Odyssey his own? Thanks for hanging out with me. Check out this next video. This was Film School Dad. Yeah, talk through this. So I have a question for you. What is your favorite Christopher Nolan movie? The Prestige?
Yeah.
Or Memento?
Metal.
You like Memento?
Yeah.
How you like Guy Pearce?
Yeah.
Do you think Guy Pearce was better in Memento or in The Brutalist?
Yeah, metal.
I think so too, because I think Christopher Nolan just I like Nolan better. Do you like Nolan?
Nah.
What do you hate most about Nolan?
My mom.
He smells. I know. All right. Want to go upstairs?
No, I read the red.
You want to keep making a video?